Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Liza Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Liza Florida. And today we have got a special guest. She is the author and expert in the fields of plant and vibrational medicine. Adora Winquist is a visionary in the nascent arena of quantum alchemy, an evolutionary transformative path for self-mastery which facilitates healing at the DNA level. She intertwines the divine knowledge and ancient wisdom of esoteric philosophy, psycho-spiritual dynamics, essential oil, and energy medicine through her 20 plus years as a facilitator, educator, formulator, and entrepreneur. Welcome, Adora Winquist, to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am super excited to have you on. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you so much, Liza. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
And I know that there are going to be some people that are going to be tuning in audio, but your necklace is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I bought this. It has a matching bracelet. I bought it in Mexico in August. And I just had the intuitive sense that I needed to take it to France with me for our first Mary Magdalene retreat to lead all of the ceremonies that we had every day in these beautiful mystical areas of southern France.
Yes. And I know we will touch on that in a bit because I know that we have been talking offline about that South of France trip. And I'm like, that's on my bucket list. I've got to go.
Absolutely.
It actually, the timing of it is perfect. So if anyone is interested in this, and of course we'll have the links later on. And in the show notes, if you'd like to probably join us in France, I'm claiming it, so I'll be there.
I heard you. You said joining us. I am delighted to have you.
I know, because I am still in the middle of reading that book, the
Magdalen
Manuscript, but it's super powerful. So for anyone, Adora, would you like, since you finished it, would you like to just shortly, for anyone that's tuning into this, would you like to give them a synopsis of the Magdalen Manuscript is about?
Sure. It was one of the very first books that I read when it first came out about Mary Magdalene. And of course, I had followed the work of Tom Kenyon, who is a brilliant sound healer. In fact, he did, I think around the time that he launched that book, he was also doing a bit of an experiment with spikenard essential oil. I don't know if you remember that, but you could request a very small amount, but it was quite generous. He sent out about this much of spikenard essential oil, which is the aromatic that is in the biblical stories that Mary Magdalene anointed the feet of Jesus before the Last Supper. And it is an incredibly sacred oil. It helps to access the wisdom that's held through our ancestry and DNA. And so it's used with great reverence for spiritual applications, sacred intentional practices, meditation. But anyway, so he did this experiment with spikenard essential oil around the time of the launch of that book, where he wrote it with his partner, Judy Sion. And so the book goes into the story of Mary Magdalene and talks a lot about the sacred magic of Isis, which it definitely connects into the energy of this necklace. And I really connect with her energy so deeply, and did on 2 trips to Egypt, but that's a whole other story of sacred journey. But the beautiful thing about the Magdalen Manuscript is it speaks of the story of Mary Magdalene as a very high-level spiritual initiate, and yet a woman as well. Absolutely. So when we think about the 2 polarities, oftentimes we think about the goddess energy, right? Yes. And so we think of different aspects of the goddess, like goddess Isis or like Mother Mary, as something very intangible, right? Yeah. Almost unapproachable from our perspective. But Mary Magdalene, because her life journey was the human journey and encapsulates the full gamut of the human experience, right? From not only the spiritual perspective, but as a woman in love with her twin flame or counterpart of Christ. And all of the teachings of surrender and faith and trust and sacred relationship through her journey. And it's a profound read, and I think deeply healing for all of us right now that are feeling the call from the inner planes to rise, right? Rise in our divine feminine.
Absolutely. I think that even, and I just went on live right before, because I was just kind of showing everyone the new set, as well as talking about the fusing of the masculine and feminine energies, only because in the last 3 weeks, everyone started feeling the shift. Everyone started feeling, and then we moved into Aries, into the new horoscope calendar, right? Those
Yes.
astrological calendar. And I feel it. I'm a fire sign, so I am lit. And last night I came across I think it was a video, and it was a lady and she was talking about the sacred femme. And I shared it, and I put Haseya, right? Haseya,
Mm,
right? From the Navajo language, is
yes.
everything about rise, sister, rise, right? You can just
Mm,
feel the energies right now. And I had to allude to the fact in my live that it's not a women empowerment thing per se, because I think people are going to get that mixed up. I think what I was trying to tell everyone, including the masculines, is that the feminine is rising. So even within yourself, if
yes.
you move and shift to the place of the heart, it can really show big change in everything that you do, in your work, in your family place, because the energies are there to support that.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, because we all have an aspect of the divine feminine within us,
Absolutely.
just as we have the aspect of the divine masculine. And so, where we are calling to our own inner rising, healing, transmutation of the patterns that no longer serve us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Transformation into the highest aspects of who we are at the soul level. And that comes to a joining of the inner divine masculine and the divine feminine. Because as women, through the perspective of the divine feminine rising within us, true empowerment is inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
We give birth to men, we raise men. And so we have to invite that inner communion of both male, female to rise and intertwine in the highest aspect of creation, right? Because that is our true opportunity and potential. Because when we can embrace both aspects through our own inner journey and then through sacred relationship in the outer world, right? Then we're able to kind of embody that alchemical container
Mm.
of light and frequency, where creating beyond limitations becomes everyday living.
Oh my gosh. It
Mhm.
was just so profound. I feel like I was just speaking to a high priestess right now. I could feel it in every part of my body when you were
Mhm.
just saying that, because you articulate it so well. The beauty. Sometimes, sometimes I'm in a container also, in a mastermind with these high level frequency, and it's the new coaching now is energetics.
Absolutely.
It's all energetics. It's not business plans. It's not this. But even though a lot of these coaches are offering that, it's all about calling it in. And
Yes.
what I didn't realize, Adora, when I was, and I don't know if I shared this with you with the pre-podcast interview, I built 8 billion on love. And now, as I ascend in my journey, I'm all, that's exactly why this whole thing, the timing was just perfect, even though I started it 2 years ago.
Sure.
It was, everything happened in its divine timing.
Isn't that such a beautiful confirmation of being in alignment and being in flow? Right?
Yes.
And being able to create from and co-create ultimately, because we're co-creating with the cosmic forces of benevolence, with the beautiful strength and abundance of Mother Earth, with the energy of our sacred human hearts and our unique quintessence and our life force and all of the alchemies of the natural world. So truly we are co-creating. And when we can understand that we have the potential to create with effortless intention, right? Within that 0 point field, that dimension of limitless creative potential. And
Yes.
it's all possible, and it all unfolds with exquisite perfection, just as every single moment of our lives, every breath we've taken since our first, every step that we've taken since our first has brought us perfectly here and now,
Yeah.
right? With everything that we need within us to heal and awaken at the deepest levels.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so like when you're just talking like the energy field between us. I mean, and that's where I've been. Like the last 3 to 4 months, I've just bathed in feminine energy.
Mm,
Only because I knew what was happening energetics wise was I was downloading so much vision. And everyone was all like, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I should put on my employment as Strands Beach because I spent almost every day out there for hours, not knowing that I was even contributing to the, I know this is going to get out there, guys, to the grid lines and the energetic force field.
yes, because everything is connected, all of
Every,
us.
yes. Oh
I
my
love
God.
that. That's
I
beautiful.
know we can go deep into these conversations, and that was just our intro, you guys. So this is going to give you an example of the deep dive we are going to go into for season 5, as I am going to show all of these guests are an absolute reflection of the journey that I've had. And I really wanted to bring forth these amazing guests, especially yourself, Adora. I mean, with 20 years in the industry. Let's go back to that. How did it all start? Because a lot of people, I think, with this awakening happen or activation, igniting, a lot of people are going to start coming on to now,
Mm,
like having these extrasensory perceptions that
yes.
some things are different. But you happen to have done this 20 years ago and started that journey. So what brought you there?
Well, that is such a beautiful question, because I believe that all of our souls map out beautiful timing for our awakening, right? And all the different levels of consciousness that we move through along our journey of self-discovery, self-excavation, and ultimately self-mastery. So for me, I think that the journey or the awakening was really palpable when I was very young, because I spent so much time in nature and
Mhm.
being with the flowers and the plants and rolling around on the mossy phlox and being with the lilies and the lilacs. Like, this for me was where I felt most at home.
Mhm.
I felt safe, I felt secure, and I felt the contrast of the inner environment of my home and family of origin. And so, as an empath, being very young, being outside in nature is where I felt whole, right? And I didn't feel the heaviness, the density of everything that was happening around me within my family dynamics. And so it wasn't until I was in my probably almost late teens. Right after high school, I went to California, and I had always wanted to go there. I thought it was so beautiful. I went to NoCal, and I had an experience with a local shaman for the equinox in the fall. And it was like something awakened within me that was deeply connected to my younger days. But in the interim, right, from when we're really young, and then we go through kind of all the trials and tribulations of adolescence and school and high school and relationships, and all of the emotional experiences that go along with that. So this experience in California, like, just lit something up, like a little reminder within my soul,
Yeah.
and being able to come into a place of reverence again for nature, and to open those lines of communication. And so not long after that, I moved to Cape Cod, Massachusetts, And I didn't have health insurance and I didn't have a lot of money. And every year I would get bronchitis from allergies twice a year. And I would be down for the count, like really, really sick. And so somewhere I heard something about herbs. I went and bought a book and 5 different herbs, hyssop, thyme, eucalyptus, and I made a tea and I healed so quickly that I was like, this is amazing. So I started making teas and tinctures for anyone and everyone that said yes when they didn't feel well. And that, of course, brought me to essential oils. And I thought, well, this is really quite interesting because I'd always been enamored by scent.
Yes.
Right. And so even remembering back to my grandmother's home where she had some lotion or soap that smelled like lavender and roses. And still to this day, when I smell that, I'm immediately transported to her living room and I feel safe and I feel warm and I feel loved. And all of these wonderful connections that happen between our sense of smell and our brain and our limbic system really inspired me to then create business through aromatics, which now I've created a number of businesses, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
So getting back to this time in my late teens, I also was curious. I'd heard about Reiki and I was like, okay, well, this sounds really interesting. I went for my first Reiki class. This was in the mid 90s. And John Harvey Gray was my teacher. He learned directly from the lineage of Usui Reiki, and his teacher was Takata. And so he was older then, probably in his 70s at this time, over 20 years ago. And when he did the attunement on me, I started to see these colors around people. And I thought, this is amazing. I'd always been interested in metaphysical philosophy and had been reading about it, but to have that experience was really quite incredible. But then noticing how colors around people would change based on how they were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wow, this is really, I want to know more.
Now,
So
really quick, Adora, when you
yeah.
say colors changing around people, could you see their auric field for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you
So,
have that special gift of
yeah.
being able to see color, like people's auras.
Right. And that happened after I had that first a Reiki attunement.
Okay.
And that's when I started to see them and then started to see them more and more and then became interested, like how can I develop these high sense perceptions? And then noticing that they shift with people's emotional nature. I thought, well, what would happen if I took an essential oil formula and then infused that with energy, just like I was doing Reiki on myself or another person? What would happen?
Yeah.
And then I realized, wow, it's exponential energy, vibration, consciousness. And for me, I had been challenged with anxiety and depression since early adolescence because the family dynamics where I grew up were really quite heavy. Right. And so that too became part of my own treasure map and journey of healing and understanding, really starting to look at some of these other aspects of energy healing, whether it was Reiki or ultimately the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, which is where I got my degree in vibrational medicine. But looking at how these patterns from early childhood create subconscious energies and points of attraction to create experiences that we don't always want to see in our lives, right? Through relationship, through our finances, through our career. So then it became a real passion, like how can I change this within myself and understand my own predispositions and patterns and behaviors and emotions, and other feelings and thought processes. And then it became a way that I could create change for other people, both through products and services and books and so forth.
That was an absolutely amazing journey. I'm only getting into essential oils myself now, but it just, I mean, even now it makes sense. Even just the scent of something
Yes.
is
Yes.
all, yeah.
It's incredible. And so like, this is one of my greatest passions because I can see how not only it's shifted my own energy healing and awakening process, but how the thousands of people that I've worked with and hundreds of thousands of products that I've formulated for sale globally, how they've changed people's lives. And even from the simplest perspective to get even if it was one takeaway for those that are watching or listening to this podcast, is that when you have either the right essential oils in the right formulation or one essential oil, and then purity is paramount for optimal outcome, but that we can literally transform how we feel in the moment via inhalation because of the connection between our sense of smell and our brain, but specifically the amygdala and the limbic system that regulates so much of our physiology, but mood, memory, and emotion.
Yeah.
We can change how we feel in the moment, right? Which modulates the stress response. We can also shift the trajectory of our emotional response to our trigger points the more that we use it. So this becomes a complete game changer, not just from emotional well-being, but ultimately for the elevation of our consciousness as well.
Yeah. It's just incredible. Like and then I'm all like, I have so many questions going through my head right now because this is such a great conversation that we have going. But I know you are so big and like such an expert on essential oils. So I definitely want to really stay in touch on this. But you're absolutely right. Like I never even, and we talked about this in the pre-podcast interview. You're even saying back then that was the alchemist in you, right?
Yes,
Like we're
absolutely.
all, yeah. I just wanted to share with the crowd, wherever you're coming from and whatever point of your journey, alchemy is, it's the essence of transforming things. And in Adora's, instance, it was essential oils. It
Yes.
was that. Like for me, it's like saying a prayer and putting out the smoke from the incense, that and using that intention. Everything is energy. But then when you start going into these things and you open up your extrasensory perceptions, that's how it started for me. Was Reiki and energy healing is how I opened up my crown chakra and opened up my ability to hear my guides. Because everyone's all like, what kind of guides do you have? I was like, I kind of got a lot of guides.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, Adora, you did touch on this. So you also went into business in essential oils. Are you currently doing that right now?
Yes, and I think I will probably end up doing that until the day that I pass on. Then, of course, we'll leave legacy in that realm, in that field. But yes, I've started my first essential oil business in 1998, which was the same year, the same month, the same day that I started my healing practice. And it's really quite interesting as we're coming out of the equinox energy for the spring equinox this week, because it was an experience that I had in Egypt many, many moons ago. And it was the time of the equinox, and I was part of an organization called the Rosicrucians, which is a mystery school that teaches esoteric philosophy and how to develop our high sense perceptions, among other things. And so we were there on this group tour, and they had closed the pyramid down to just our group for the full moon and the equinox. And so we were able to go into the Queen's chamber and do meditation by candlelight, and then go to do ceremony in the King's chamber and toning. And it was such a powerful experience that was activated deep within my soul, or with the way that I like to say it, from my soul to my cells, right? Because that's really the holographic connection that we embody within our beings. And so when I came out of the pyramid, the woman who organized the trip, her name was Teresa. She looked at me and she said, that is where I know you from. We knew each other in Egypt, and we were initiates, and we were in the main pyramid and doing this initiation. And I think in part it was involved dematerialization and some other esoteric philosophies. But she said to me, you didn't trust in that life, and you deeply regretted it afterward. And she said, and so what I want to tell you right now is step into the dark void and trust yourself, trust above you, trust below you, trust within you. And there was such a resonance of truth when she said that, tears were just pouring down from my eyes. And so I went back to Massachusetts and quit my corporate job and started my healing practice, and the essential oil business that same time in 98. And, it's been an incredible journey. And so the first brand that I started was called Reawaken, and had all sorts of energy clearing and chakra balancing blends. And then I iterated on that and ultimately built that after my first daughter was born into a brand called Opus Gaia that then became Adora Therapy, where the chakra blends and the energy clearing formulas became products in the mainstream. And we were selling to hundreds and hundreds of stores in the US, including Whole Foods and other stores in the wellness sector, and some international sales. And then I left that company. I hired an executive team, hired a CEO, left day-to-day operations, sold my majority stake about 5-6 years ago, so I could write my book, the DNA Alchemy book, and then start this new brand, which is Adora Winquist. So this one, instead of being Adora Therapy, has my full name.
It's amazing.
And so I think has some of the highest vibrational formulas I've ever created, which is really exciting.
I can feel it. And then now that I was just telling you that I was starting to go into essential oils, I definitely have to get with you offline because I'm
absolutely
so curious. But going back to that full moon equinox in Egypt, I was just going to tell you, and I didn't want to interrupt. I was like, it was a remembrance. It was absolutely
a remembrance. Absolutely.
That has been my life for the last 3 weeks. And for the audience, just hang tight while we talk about this, because I know sometimes this can go really deep into spirituality, but I know I was called to do this season to bring this into depth, because whoever is meant to hear this, there is a frequency match for you, whether you're consciously aware of it and it might seem a little bit out there, or it might click for you later. So I wanted to tell you that was just everything is such a deep remembrance, and you can literally be transformed into a different world, come back and then be like, I have to just do this. It's a completely shift in a different journey.
Yeah, that's so true, because here we are spiritual beings living in this physical reality, in this kind of schoolhouse called Earth, so to speak. And yet we've come into this embodiment from the soul level. Our soul is filled with the desires to express itself in this life, to create, to heal, to grow, to understand more about our path and purpose. So in the process that's known as awakening, so much of it is actually remembering, right? Remembering the divine knowledge, the ancient wisdom that's held within us, remembering the infinite connection to love and creation that we have, and the interconnectedness between us and all kingdoms of life and each other, right, in the human realm. And so as we come through this process of self-discovery, understanding that, remembering that, so much of the journey is letting go and unlearning the Maya, those illusions that we thought were true about reality and ourselves. And I always like to say, take what you believe to be true about yourself. Take what you believe to be true about the potential for your life, and completely magnify that 1,000 or 1,000,000 fold, because you are capable of so much more than you can even realize. Right. And so that comes from shedding the layers of unlearning whatever is no longer true. There are things that we experience in this life. There are things that we've come in with to this life that aren't true, but it comes with this beautiful journey of excavation to find that out. So we can know what the contrast is, right? The contrast from a place of empowerment comes from understanding disempowerment and all of the facets that we've experienced that in our lives, because we've all experienced adversity. And the adversity is a powerful teacher of so many things, including compassion, including empowerment, including wisdom, love, and understanding, right? And so it is the unique journey of your soul and our soul and my soul that comes in to join together in sacred community to create greater momentum and awaken together, because there is momentum in our numbers, right?
Yeah, it's so powerful. I feel it in my home and my heart space. I'm telling you, like everything was just when I got into this mastermind, women's master, we call it a sisterhood. I mean, it was just next level, because every type of mastermind and coaching was all about business. And when I met the lady she's going to actually be featured in season 5 as well, who actually put this mastermind together, I said, I'm home. Like, it's been a 10-year journey to find you women, because I was doing so many things, Adora. I was like lighting candles. I was putting my sage up in the air. I didn't even know what I was doing sometimes.
Yeah.
Little did I know I was in sacred ceremony. I was just remembering. And that's why I felt lost for 10 years, because it was just like my soul was just calling out for something more than what we were living in, so-called, and some people understand this already, what we call the matrix, right? But it's earth school.
Yes.
You can't, in the grand scheme of things, I tell everyone, you cannot fail at earth school. You might judge it as you think you did, but you came here to learn exactly what you came here to learn, which was to live and to experience life in all of its glory. Wins and losses, successes and failures. And even that's judging. You know what I mean?
Right, because it's all just experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we ultimately embody the magnificence of freedom until we've known what it is to be in limitation, what it is to be in constriction,
Gosh,
right?
so
What it is to
powerful.
be in suppression. So that is such an expansive way to say, okay, I know where this path leads. I know where these experiences lead. Now I'm ready to own the fullness, receive the fullness of my divinity, of my sovereignty, of my freedom. And not only do I want to experience that for myself, my being, from my soul to myself, I want to also pave a path for others to remember that as well. Yeah. Right. And contribute to the greater good of all. And that is when we're able to embody and actualize our soul purpose and contribute with positive, benevolent impact to the world around us. But first, we must go through our own journey of healing, of understanding, right? Just like you're sharing your 10-year journey, right? Your 10-year journey was an incredible healer, teacher. Right. It was also the alchemy that you called for as the alchemist.
Yeah. And another thing too, I, like I said, as I interviewed everyone for season 5, I was just like, these were all the people. This is my soul family. We're just getting united in this lifetime right now, in this time, in whatever, there's no time, but in this timeline per se in human experience.
Yes,
but
it's a marker. This is a marker of cohesion.
It is a marker of cohesion. And when I'm talking about building this platform for 8 billion, it now just makes full sense. It's the human consciousness experience all in a digital world. And this is incredible. the level of conversations, guys. I mean, even pre-podcast interviews were amazing. And now to be able to record this and bring this out to you guys is really something that's full from my heart. So if you're watching on video, I'm always holding my heart and my womb, because there's so much connection there. There's so much remembrance and reconnection to Mother Earth, Pachamama. What is this? Mary Magdalene. And then even lately into my realm, I've been hearing like Lady Isis.
Yes.
Lady Isis. And I'm really big Adora with the whole star seed, the soul family, the soul star family. That's really where I think I get all these these huge downloads. And yeah.
It's so true. And, isn't that the beauty of the awakening process? Because even with that, we have the vast levels of contrast when we look over our shoulder, right? And look back and see the journey of our lives that have taken to get to this point, right? And then, so when we acknowledge ourselves as these vastly multi-dimensional beings, these star seed beings that have come to this planet at this point in time, at this juncture of time and space, as a marker to support the awakening, to support the transformation, right? To support the elevation of consciousness on the planet and all kingdoms of life. Like, that's when we know we've come together to harmonize our souls, our light, our frequencies, and recreate heaven upon earth, because it is time. That's why we've come, and that's why we're coming together again.
And yeah, and then I was just like, oh, I'm a channel and conduit to actually, you know what I mean? We all are. Yeah. It's just that we're all awakening and going on our journey. We are all light beings, everyone. We are the most magnificent thing. And if you even understood what your potential was, you would even understand we could create a completely different world. It's just that we're all here, like we've all awakened at different times. And now we've all given our life in service to helping others do that, because what we know on the other side is so exquisite and magnificent. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. I love what you mentioned about the figure 8, the sacred geometry of the infinity symbol, because for me, it's something that from a very young age, I would just draw. And from my very first logo from the mid-90s, it was an aspect of that. But that symbol, just like our souls, just like our lives, can continue to teach us from an infinite perspective. Right. So the more that I embody my own soul's light and wisdom, the more that I understand about infinite healing, about the infinity symbol, and all of these points of connection that we are able to comprehend and co-create from once we move to a certain tipping point in our own evolutionary process, right? In our own level of not only consciousness, but healing the aspects of the divine feminine, our male, our female, and our child consciousness, right? Because we have these points of connection that are very similar. If you look at the infinity symbol and you imagine one side of the ellipse is the masculine, the right side, one side is the feminine, the left side, and you are the concentric point, right? And that concentric point also opens us to the 0 point field of limitless potential and the ability to transmute what we've carried through our own individual male female aspects and our bloodlines, our father bloodline, our mother bloodline, through our DNA, and having the ability, because of the nature of time and space now, to quantum leap along our own pathway of healing and transformation. The more that we transform and clear and open and receive, claiming our greatness, our magnificence of our soul sovereignty and divinity, the more vast areas of life that we can create change with on this planet, right? Not just from the personal perspective, but from the global perspective, just like you're doing with this beautiful program.
Oh, thank you, Adora. I've been talking about this in different containers because it's like, what is your ideal soul client, right? Because I'm all like, am I going to go into coaching? But the vision for 8 billion is just so big. So I'm all, but that's what's happening is everyone is kind of figuring out like, I want to do this creative side of me, but this is what I've known for 20, 40 years as my career, but something's calling deeper to my soul. I'm telling you, all of you in the audience, follow that. It's just like what Adora said in the beginning, like the darkness, right? And then just follow. There's something that's calling you that's deeper.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And then you even talk about that zero. Is that also called reference to as 0 point energy?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I've been hearing that for 10, 15 years too.
Yeah.
See?
So this is such a powerful place of attraction and manifestation. So that 0 point energy is held within the very center of our heart space. It is its own dimension, if you will. And in that place, we are able to create our soul's dreams and desires from the perspective beyond limitation. But how are we able to access that point, right? If we're carrying the heaviness and heartache of the past, of all of the places that we have been hurt and betrayed and disappointed, and where we've lost love, where we've lost loved ones, right? That's all held here energetically in the heart. So how can we come into this PowerPoint of attraction and manifestation if there's all of that heaviness and sadness that's carried there? Right? That is where we come into the releasing, the letting go, the detoxification, the clearing. And that brings us to deeper levels of understanding and compassion about not only our journey in life, but the journey of all of our brothers and sisters on the planet.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
So,
absolutely. That's absolutely it. That becomes where I talk a lot about take the journey within, go and it's the healing journey. And I know it's scary. I know it's scary for a lot of you or all of us for that matter, because the healing journey never really ends. There's layers upon layers. And then if you think one thing, and the process of ascension is incredible because I just keep saying to my spirit guides, I'm all like, I'm going to do this. Sometimes I don't understand, but I'm going to surrender because it becomes easier. It does. As time goes by, it becomes easier to surrender because that's what they're trying to get you to.
Yes, this is such a profound piece.
Yes.
The surrender, the faith, the trust. Because there are moments that we say, okay, I really want to have this beautiful relationship, deeply intimate, passionate, harmonious, or I want this great degree of abundance, of prosperity, right? And so then we are doing all of the things, right? We're planting the seeds of our intention. We are conscientious about our energy, our thoughts, our emotions that sculpt our reality. But in moments we have doubt, right? And doubt is certainly no ally of manifestation because there are moments that we can't quite see what's around the corner. And in that moment of not being able to see what's on its way, we can go easily back into that old pattern, doubt, disappointment, betrayal, loss. It's not here yet. I'm so disappointed, right? And we take ourselves out of energetic vibrational alignment, and then we don't see what was just right before us, right? Just coming into physical manifestation. So the areas of faith, trust, and surrender are paramount to our journey of embodying our soul's path and purpose. So the question is like, what are you white knuckling in your life and trying to control, of which there is no control in that regard, right? Where are the areas that you disbelieve, whatever it may be, whether it's about your worth, whether it's about another person or an experience, it always comes back to self.
Yeah.
Everything always comes back to self because whatever is unresolved within us at a subconscious level will continue to magnetize experience and reality until it's cleared and resolved. And that is where the places of faith and trust, this is one of my affirmation cards that I have right on my desk. And I fully trust that my highest ultimate reality is unfolding right now.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So in those moments where we start to have doubt, that is when we have to call upon an intervention, working with the affirmations, working with breath, working with the aromatics, inhaling the aromatics with the affirmation, and the positive mindful intention in the moment anchors that intention into our molecular composition, into our brain, into our blood, into our cells, and into our auric field. Right. And so this is another area where working with the resonance of the plant kingdom through the essential oils, which are the most potent form of plant medicine, can have an incredible acceleration process on our spiritual development, growth, and awakening.
Oh, I am so into this. I'm like so lost in our conversation right now, Adora. That with the audience, if and wherever you are in your journey, we honor it. Absolutely. Right. But there's, like I said, if you've listen to this podcast, there's a reason you got this far, because something is calling to your soul. And I'm just absolutely enjoying this right now. I could talk to you for hours.
Likewise.
Yeah, I know, because I'm just so enamored. I mean, the pre-podcast interview is like, okay, got to know your history and all this kind of stuff. But this is amazing, because what we share in the podcast is information that can help anyone on their journey, and even on a deeper level.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And that, it starts with, as much as it's the esoteric, the expanded, the spiritual, it's also about the simple, practical, and accessible tips, tools, steps that we can take every day that continue to open our path.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I don't know how these things blow by so fast. I'm all like, I'm going to have you on again. But I mean, to the audience, I mean, if I'm pretty sure, I mean, for myself, Adora's work calls to me already, even just from the essential oil. And like, I think we brushed on it, the Mary Magdalene, that's going to be the fall equinox.
And we are going to go from, oh my goodness, Marseille all the way to Montségur in the Pyrenees Mountains. We're going to go to this beautiful ancient forest and the grotto where Mary Magdalene spent the last decades of her life. And you will have mystical experiences and miracles that unfold every day. Yeah. I mean, the trip last year was amazing, and even expanded past my desires and intentions for connection in sacred community, in deep healing, and working with the ceremonies that I'll be facilitating with the oils and the crystals. And I'm going to be doing this really unique Akashic record. It'll be a ceremony of both clearing and activation, calling forward. All under the auspices of the Divine Feminine, and specifically Mary Magdalene. And it's going to be an epic and life-changing event. So.
No, it absolutely is. And so for anyone out in the audience, if you come across this, whether you'd like to join us in France,
Yeah.
or of course you'd like to learn more about Adora, this is your opportunity to share your work and your anything that you'd like to share with the, I don't even know. I think I got caught up in an energy field right now. I can't even put words in my mouth.
I got it.
Share your links so people can get a hold of you.
So if you go to adorawinquist.com, sign up for our newsletter, because every week we send out tips, alchemy, DIYs, our complimentary events every week. I facilitate a complimentary meditation. It's Thursdays this week, or it's the series right now that we're doing on psychic development in conjunction with the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. Then monthly, we have a Mary Magdalene meditation healing circle, also complimentary, that is amazing because we work with the alchemies and it's all guided. In fact, in April, my partner, Veronique, in France is going to come on because she holds this beautiful history of Mary Magdalene and France. And so she'll be talking about some of the highlights of our tour that will be in the fall. And so that's going to be wonderful. I'm going to do an invocation for that. And my ally, Patsy Balaki, who's going to be co-leading a retreat here in the US, will be on that, as well as Carla Perez, another ally. We're co-leading a retreat here in Boone. So join the subscriber list. And then, of course, on YouTube, at Adora Winquist, and all the social platforms at Adora Winquist, I am creating complementary content all of the time. I know, really high vibrational energy. So check out everything there. AdoraWinquist.com/retreats for retreats for both Mary Magdalene in France and Boone. And my book. So this is all about healing at the DNA level, working with plant and vibrational medicine, detox, nourish, activate plant and vibrational medicine for energy, mood, and love. And this is co-authored with my ally with the plants, Dr. Lulu Shemek. And it is a wonderful, like almost 500 pages of wisdom and self-discovery and formulas, so you can become your own alchemist, create your own alchemy, and transform, curating your path of self-mastery. So please, I would love to see you, to hear from you, to join our meditations or retreats. And it's been a true delight communing with you here today, Lisa.
Oh, thank you so much. It has equally been that, if not greater, for myself, as you guys are all teachers for me as well. You know, and that's what I'm saying is, everyone, in order to get to this place where you are in creation, because it's true, you're in creation all the time. It just depends on what you want to create. But when we're talking about this high level frequency, like you are pulling from infinite potentiality, you've got to take the journey inward so you can, you understand who you are at the core. And once that happens, a dream world opens up. So it's like, whoosh.
So true.
But Adora, thank you so much for being also a part of this special season. And I just want to thank you from one soul to another. We're both holding our hearts because we know what this means. I just want to thank you. You will always have a voice on this platform. And I'm just sending you infinite blessings. So thank you again. And thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this episode of 8 Billion Podcast. We will see you on our next one. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the 8 Billion Podcast. If it's moved you in any way, please share your thoughts or give us a review on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. To listen to more episodes, go to 8billionpodcast.com, or to learn more about our mission, go to 8billionproject.com.